Well, here we are. It is Friday again. It's November 21st, 2025, and this is the weekly video. Each week we take a look at the Asian art and antiques market. We talk about mostly Chinese and Japanese works of art, Southeast Asian, Korean, and so forth. We touch base on the Persian rug market, the Oriental rugs, Central Asian carpets, and a bit on Western antiques too, off and on. There's one piece coming up in a sale that I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the video about a very nice table, antique American classical table that was made in Boston. But at any rate, that's where we are. And right now, it's getting a little quiet. We're heading into Thanksgiving, as you all know, and the auctions are still going on. The auctions finished up over in England in pretty good shape, and we'll be putting out some result videos next week. I was going to try and do it this week, but my wife and I, we were down in New York visiting one of our children down there, and his girlfriend, and stayed in the city for a few days, had a lovely time, and of course had some good meals, and went out, and we brought Buck along, the mighty Buck, and we had it was lovely. It was a beautiful time. We drove down and came back the other day, and here we are. Here we are. So anyway, there's a number of things we're going to touch on today. One of them is Sotheby's just had a sale today. We're going to go through it. They had an extremely strong result. Extremely strong, and there's another sale coming up tomorrow that's got a bit of controversy around it, and there's nothing wrong with the stuff, but it's sort of a strange sale, and I'm going to get into that at the end. But first, I want to talk about some results from the last week and go through and sort of see what's happening, and a few reminders of sales that are coming up in the next couple of days, and some things that we came across this week that are coming up that might get missed and might pose an opportunity. And there's a couple of new sales. Leland Little's got an Asian sale coming up, and there's a few others. So we'll just dive into it. We'll just dive into it, okay? But one of the things I wanted to start out was this. This was an interesting sale. As you know, Revere auctions out in where are they located? They're in St. Paul, Minnesota. They had a sale this week, and in this sale was this. There were these four Chinese, sort of these Chinlung marked, chicken cups or little boy cups. We've all seen these before. They made them they made them in the 18th century, but they also made them during the Republic period. And these were Republic period cups. And they're extremely pretty. They're very well made. They turn up from time to time. This one had its original box and all that. And they had an estimate, I thought, that was pretty reasonable. Here it is with the box, a very, very standard, Republic period export box, beautifully made. And there are the cups. They had the standard inscription on the backs that they all do, Chinlong and so forth. But what was very unusual was the price. They were estimated at $3,000 to $6,000, which I thought was pretty doable because there were four of them, and typically these cups sell for in the $2,500 to $4,000 range typically. Sometimes they bring a little more, sometimes they bring a little less, and all that. Look what these brought. These brought $48,000 plus the buyer's premium. So that brought them in at around $60,000 or about $15,000 a cup. This was a very, very strong price. Now, granted, you don't get the opportunity to buy a set of four in the original case very often. That absolutely played into it. And we always, consider a pair is generally worth 2.5 to 3 times the price of a single example. So now you got four of them. So you have to do the math and sort of say, well, the crowd obviously did a calculation and began to think, well, how rare an opportunity is it to get the whole set of four with the original box? And I think some deep pockets jumped in here and went for it. And that $3,000 to $6,000 estimate got blown to bits. Coming in, like I said, at around 60. What was the premium here? 30%. So 3 times 15, blah, blah, about $62,000 for all four cups. That's quite a result. So congratulations to Sean and everybody out at Revere. All right. And the rest of the sale did pretty well too. So if you want to see it, go through. But these really stood out. The other things on the sale were perfectly fine. There were some sort of things in the more what we consider the normal price ranges, selling in the $300 or $400 up to maybe a few thousand, 5,000, 10,000. But these really jumped out when I saw the result. I had them on a watch list because I was curious to what they'd bring. All right, and then over to this. This sold the other day, and I'm mentioning this because this was those of you that like carpets and textiles and so forth. This is a wonderful Jaff curd bag, saddle bag, and it went for nothing. Somebody got a great buy. These Kurdish bags are unbelievably soft. They're probably the softest thick carpet wool you'll ever touch. Tends to be very, very floppy. And this pattern is well known on curd pieces, but the color pattern, the color palette here with this yellow border and this very lovely light blue and so forth, and it appears to have full pile. The piece was complete all the way to the end. I have no idea why this went so inexpensively. It went for $275 plus the premium. It was a lovely example. It really, really was. You see Jaff curd, what they call Jaff Kurdish bags from the Middle East fairly often, but not too often. It was estimated, I thought, very reasonably at $400 to $600. I thought it could have brought more because the colors were so nice on this. These aren't terribly big. This was 33 inches by 41 inches, not terribly big. And this was at Kutani up in New York. I had this. Somebody got a great buy. This is an absolutely wonderful thing. So there you go. And the other things that sold this, was this the same sale? This was also a Kutani. Was this very nice Ben Krong style or Ben Krong type bowl. This was a good one. It measured, let's see here, 7 inches in diameter. So it was a pretty good sized bowl. And it was estimated at $200 to $400 and it went for $375, which I think was very reasonable because the condition of it was so good. Often you see these Ben Krong bowls and they have a lot of wear showing on them. The enamels get rubbed down and worn because they were used. And this bowl was good all the way around. The interior of it was clean. Nice looking piece of porcelain. I hope one of you bought it. It went for $350 plus premium, or around $420. And the other thing that was in the this was also in the Revere sale. That's right. Was the pair of fish dishes, the Famille Rose Grant fish dishes. These are very, very nice, beautifully done, rare. Now these are mid 19th century. They're not extremely old, but it's a very rare pattern. And you don't see these very often. And was there something to do with General Grant to do with these or something? At one point, the General Grant's dinner service or Ulysses. There it is. Yeah, similar in style to the dishes that had belonged to Ulysses S. Grant. They call these Grant dishes for some reason. I suppose it's because of that. But anyway, these did very well. So with the premium and all done, they ended up at about $2,400. But extremely nice. And also in the sale was this very nice silk embroidered panel with precious objects and the wave border at the bottom. This was a nice piece of silk, beautifully done. And the wave border at the bottom was particularly large, very, very, very detailed. Nice piece of silk. And again, the silk market is nice and strong. $2,100 with a $200 to $400 estimate, with $2,100 plus premium, so around $2,700 roughly. And it wasn't enormous. It was 25 inches tall and 16 inches wide. It was good size, but it wasn't, a bedspread or anything. So that was a very strong price. Very, very strong. And the other thing that did well, this was at Brunk's. We had talked about these a few weeks ago because these appeared to be they distributed them to Sun Qua, or maybe they had labels on them. They certainly looked like Sun Qua's work. Mid 19th century, very finely painted. These were beautifully painted watercolors. Wonderful detail. I liked them a great deal, and I thought they should do well because I thought the estimate was very modest, $500 to $700. They ended up going for about $1,400, about double the high estimate, because they're extremely fine. These kinds of paintings turn up fairly. How big were they? Were they very, very big? And they were marked Sun Qua on the back. Okay, that certainly helps a lot. And they were done on pith, of course, which was the main material they decorated on, which is thin slices of material taken from the pith tree. They don't process pith. Some of you have asked, what is pith? Pith is the white core of a tree that grows in Asia, and you can slice it paper thin and dry it, and it's just like paper. It's extremely brittle, though. So often when you see pith, it often has cracks and breaks in it. These didn't, apparently. They were in very good condition and ended up doing quite well at $1,400 with the premium. All right, and then hopping along over to this. This is just a reminder. The Marco Polo sale is coming up in 10 days. Just to let everybody, there's a nudge. This is the sale that's got that phenomenal Korean bronze in it. And just so you know, the Korean bronze. Somebody emailed me about this because certain items of certain rarity and so forth, getting them shipped out of Italy can be a little bit of a little bit of a hassle because of they don't want rare objects leaving the country. Carlo doesn't seem to think it's going to be too much of an issue. Because it is Korean, it's not Italian, and so forth. And if one of you decides you want to buy that spectacular bronze that we talked about a few weeks ago, he will, of course, help you in getting the paperwork done and, grease the skids, so to speak. But if you live in Italy, you don't even have to think about it. Just go pick it up, buy it, and put it in your house. But at any rate, this is the sale. Okay, now moving along to this. This is the sale that's coming up at Leland Little. They've got about 100 lot sale. It's a small sale, but there's some nice things in it. There's some great little objects in there. And when you're heading into Thanksgiving and Christmas is in between and stuff, you may find yourself getting a bargain. We always talk about that. And every year we go back and we take a look at, yeah, there were some great buys. Do not miss the opportunity if you see something you like between Thanksgiving and Christmas, because sometimes just leave bids, just leave a bid. I always say that. Just leave a bid on things and you may get a great buy. And there's one of the things in the sale, there's some very nice Japanese things, there's some Chinese things too. We're going to go through just a few of them to give you an idea. This is the Okimono of Jiroshin, and he's the god of longevity and prosperity and happy life and all that. It's inscribed on the bottom. It measures 9.5 inches tall. It's a nice okimono. It's got very good color, and it's probably Meiji period. There's the bottom of it with all the inscriptions and so forth. But nice color, beautiful detail that you expect on Japanese bronzes. But it's got a double patination sort of thing going here, where the face of the man is a little bit lighter in color than the outfit he's wearing. So there's some good contrast there, and it's beautifully done. This is a beautifully done bronze, wonderfully done, and it's complete. The pen or the knife isn't knocked. It looks like a brush is still in his hand. It hasn't been knocked out, thank heavens. They estimate everything at $50,000 to $25,000 there pretty much most of the time. So go after it. Leave some bids. Also in the sale is this. Now I'm including this. This is not an extremely early jar. This is a Qing jar, but it's a beautiful color. And if you're collecting on a budget, and a Chinlung example of these with a mark on it and this beautiful, the sacrificial blue as it's known, would cost you a fortune. This doesn't have a mark on it. It's probably an early 19th century jar, judging by the look of it, the way the mouth is done, a little nice iron oxide line, very dense white clay around it. But if you'd like a really, really pretty cobalt jar, something you've wanted, this is a good one. It looks to be in very, very nice condition. I wanted to get around to the bottom. The bottom of it looks good. It's got a slightly V-shaped foot. I don't believe this to be a late 19th century jar, but a first half of the 19th century, 1810, 1820 jar. But wonderful color. Beautiful, beautiful color. Measures around 8 or 9 inches tall, as I recall. No, it's almost 10 inches. 9 3/4 inches tall, 7 inches wide. If you've wanted to own one of these just because they're so darn pretty, this is your chance to get one. It comes out of a collection down there. And then there's a pair of Shishi lions, stone guardians. Let's see now, how big are these? These are pretty good size. They're 2 feet tall. These are quite nice though. And they appear to be Edo period. They appear to be probably 18th or early 19th century. The details are good. They seem to be pretty clean. There is signs of weathering on them and so forth. But these are lovely, and they're big enough that you could put them outside or in a hallway where they'd have some presence, or maybe on a pair of low tables or something. But they're nicely carved. One with the mouth open, one with the mouth closed. That's typically how they often do. They do guardians outside of Japanese houses, the protectors and the food lions. They often do the same. One mouth open, one mouth closed. $50 starting price. They should sell for $1,500 to $2,500 because they're very nice, and Japanese stonework is highly collected. These are quite good. If you live in the area, you absolutely, and you like them, you should absolutely buy them because you don't have to pay for shipping, because they would be a little on the pricey side to ship because of the weight involved. But if you live within a few hour drive of Leland Little and down in North Carolina, what's the town they're in? They're Hillsboro. Just swing down and pick them up on an afternoon. Get them. All right, and then this. Now this is a pretty common type. These tulip bulb vases. This is a very common type. If you've been collecting for more than a matter of a year, of 6 months, you've probably seen many of these. But this is an unusual one because of the pattern. It's got animals all over it. Normally, these are flowers and geometric patterns, and they're sort of very, very typical. This one has animals on it, and they look almost like animals of the zodiac. I don't think they are, though. It looks like you got a big shishi here. You've got a water buffalo here. You've got some goats over here. This is quite an interesting thing. And then on the other side, you've got more shishi. Looks like a horse laying on the ground, and so forth. So it's got animal activity on it. That makes this is quite an unusual example. And normally these sell for $600 to $900. This could go for a good bit more because of the unusual pattern. The bottom of it looks very good, as sort of mid 19th century or so. And again, leave a bid on this thing. This is a great looking thing. It should bring $600 to $900 as a slam dunk, but don't be surprised if it brings $1,500 or so, because it's got a very unusual pattern that has a lot to do with prices. And then onto this, there's very nice Japanese mixed metal vases in the sale. A nice deep chocolate color. It's 10 inches tall. Wonderful gilding, nice relief work. It looks to be in quite good condition. The gilding, the gold is not all worn off anywhere. It looks to be in quite good shape. And again, you get that great Japanese patination that they could do, that warm cocoa brown that they're so good at. And it really contrasts wonderfully with the gold. This one is about 10 inches tall. All right. And this should sell for $1,000 to $1,500 all day long, maybe more. All right, and then hopping along, this is my favorite thing in the sale. This is my personal favorite. Is this very unusual Kutani Kazeri Subo vase. And Kazeri Subo just means, you notice how they've got the porcelain up here. This is done like a cloth that's being put on the jar to help seal it, and it drapes down over it. This is all done in porcelain. But the enamels on this are quite excellent. Black ground with the octopus scroll. This is what they call octopus leg scrolls going down over it, but very stylized and extremely precise, more precise than what you typically see on the Arita pieces. But then you have these winged dragons coming out of the ocean, and this very lovely blue and green wave pattern at the bottom. It's quite a beautiful jar. This is, I think, it's just if you're a Chinese collector, you're probably going, oh, stop, let's move on. But if you're a Japanese porcelain collector, this is a corker. This is a beautiful example. It measures about a foot, as I recall, 12 1/4 inches tall. And apparently there is, she found for a similar example, you see an earlier jar from Japan dating to the mid-19th century having the same decoration. All right, now, I don't know, they didn't say where it was, though. All right, maybe it was one that they'd sold some time ago. But anyway, this is an excellent example, and it should bring in 12 inches. It should sell for $1,500 to $2,000, I would think. It's a very, very fine example. It's already got 16 people watching it, so I think the Japanese collectors are onto it. But if you're buying Japanese ceramics, definitely look at this jar very seriously. Even if you don't buy anything else for the next 8 months, look at this. This is nice. And then this, the Kangxi reticulated cup. We just saw a big one of these sell somewhere else, a slightly larger one. I don't say how big, but very similarly decorated. That did pretty well. This should go for $800 to $1,200 anyway. It's in the sale. It's a nice looking thing. And then this, the Vietnamese porcelain dragon bowl for the Vietnamese market, inscribed. And they did some homework on this, and they found out that the mark, it's porcelains. This bowl is from a select group of porcelains ordered by the Emperor Thieu Tri, who was 1841 to 1847, from the kilns in Jiangxi, China, for his own table service. Apparently, this bowl, I've seen these before, and I think that's absolutely right. This pattern has been associated with his dinner service, and apparently, when it has the marks on it, that's where it went. Now, keep in mind, his dinner service was huge. you know, it probably had 800 or 1,000 pieces in it, but a beautiful looking bowl, interesting design, dragons in the rondel with ruyi heads going around the upper and lower framing it, measures 5 inches in diameter. It's a nice looking thing, good looking bowl. Should bring $1,500 to $2,000 with all that information. It should, but you don't know today because things are crazy. We're going to get to the Sotheby still in a minute. You'll see. All right, and again, as a reminder, this sale is coming up with all those great books from China for the West and so forth at Tremont. They have a sale coming up on the 23rd, coming up on Sunday this week. All right, and this is also coming up. This is at the Marsan sale coming up on the 27th. We looked at this bowl a couple of weeks ago. It's a very well-known type of 18th century export ware. If you throw this in Google Lens, you'll see a whole bunch of them. A lot of museums have this bowl. It's very, very pretty, wonderfully done, and they typically sell in the $800 to $1,200 range, $1,000 to $1,400 range, somewhere around there. This one has 17 people watching it. The opening bid is about $600, which is, I think, pretty reasonable considering what they bring. All right, and then this is coming up at Freeman's on the 3rd of December. If you're a Chinese silver collector, they have a sale. It's not an Asian sale. It's sort of a dinnerware porcelain entertainment, for your dinner table for entertaining, I guess is what it is. It's on the 3rd of December at Freeman's, but they have this bowl. This is a really nice Chinese silver bowl. It measures 8 5/8 inches in diameter, so it's pretty big, beautifully carved. It is signed, made in Hong Kong. It doesn't say made in Hong Kong, but that's where the maker was. The maker was Chen Xing, and if you look it up in the Yellow Silver book over on the Bitamount site, where we keep all the reference material, there's a book in there that's got this fellow's work in there. He was a very, very well-known, very high-end Chinese silversmith, and he was known for these very deep, wonderfully relief-worked grounds of clouds and dragons. The dragon here, he's spewing out up here, coming up into the sky, and you have the sun or the flaming pearl, I guess is what they were trying to do with the dragon on each side of it. Nicely done, though. Beautiful looking bowl. Estimate $1,000 to $1,500, which is right in the range. But if you've been looking for a good piece of Chinese silver, this is it. Dates to about 1890. All right. And then this is coming up at Nye and Company. And they got a little sale on the 24th. But this is an interesting little lot. It's kind of funny. They've got an English dish thrown in there for some reason. But notice these little cups. These are very nice little 18th to early 19th century cups. These very thin, almost eggshell, but in cobalt blue with their under trays, and there are 4 of them. And you don't see this pattern very often. These are quite nice. So if you like early blue and white, you might want to look at these. They may slip through very reasonably. Right now, the sale is in a couple of days. There are no bids. The bidding right now, the estimate is $50 to $500, which of course is a little wide. The 2 plates in the back and the tatsa are perfectly nice too. This is an 18th century export dish in the background. This is a sort of mid to late 19th century little food pot. Food stand. You could do it next time you have Chinese food. Put some sauce on it. But these cups, I think, are very, very nice. And you maybe have enough time to get a condition report, make sure they're not cracked or anything. But those are quite lovely. And this lot should bring $400 to $600 or $350 to $500 anyway, somewhere in there, because of those cups. Those cups are sweet. They're very nice. And also this is in the Butterscotch auction that's coming up on this December 7th. We'll be adding all this stuff over to the global pages this week. This is a really, really nice jardiniere. It's Republic period, but very pretty. Beautiful turquoise ground. And you see this ground often on jars from this period as well. Big jars, you'll see it with the same color palette. And so it's not nice to see it as a jardiniere. But if you like plants and you've been looking for something really, really nice to put plants in, this is a very good looking piece. It measures 10 inches wide by 5 inches high, 7 inches deep. So you could put something nice in it. It's already got a bid on it, which isn't a surprise. The sale's coming up. But it's a very pretty example. Should bring $1,000 to $1,500. Should bring $1,000 anyway, I would think, because these planters lately have been doing very, very, very well. You may remember a few months ago, I forget who it was, they had a pair of sort of Republic period planters with under trays, and I think they brought around $6,000. They did very well. So just keep that in mind. And also in the sale is this. Now this, they said possibly Sung. This looks like Sung to me. This Ding bowl in relief with a dragon on it. This is a pretty good looking bowl. You want to get a condition report on it. There's the exterior of it. The irregularities, the surface and all that looks fine to me as a Sung example done in a, they would mold decorate these and do a little trim work by hand. You do want to find out if this is a repair in here though, or is that just from the firing? Over in here, there's an area that looks slightly yellow, and I can't tell from the picture if it's been repaired or not. But you definitely want to check that out. It hints at it, but you can't say with certainty. So you need to check. You need to check on that. They can blacklight it for you and tell you if it's not repaired. Does it say down here? Hold on. There's no mention of any restoration. You want to check on that, find out it's got restoration, because if it doesn't have any restoration, it should be pulling in at around $1,500 to $2,500. Right now, it's got an estimate of $200 to $300, but it looks pretty good. And then there's this is coming up also. This is also Butterscotch. I don't understand. They're pretty good on Chinese stuff. They didn't describe this as coral. Now, I don't know, maybe there's some sort of issue with shipping coral around the countryside. I haven't heard of it. But this is red-colored guanyin. This is a nice piece of coral. It appears to be a sort of early for coral, more like a late 19th century example rather than the more typical 1920s coral that you see. The carving looks good. It looks like it's got a bit of wear to it here and there, just hints of it. But the color of the stone looks very earthy. It looks very natural. And the facial characteristics are quite good on it. The estimate is for nothing. The estimate's $500 to $1,000, and we've been watching these pieces turn up in sales. And this one is how big is this one? This one is 8 inches tall, and typically these sell on the low end at around $2,000, and on the high end, we've seen examples here where we talked about them in the past, where some of them bring 15, 20,000. This one I think should bring 3,000 to 5,000. It's a very nice example. It's got 27 people watching it. It's got one bid, and the sale is on December 7th. But if you're a coral buyer, there's also a sort of another coral carving in there. I think it's shaped like a tree or something. It's got like branches. It's a different one, and that one's also got very nice color. But I like this one a lot. I think this is very attractive. All right, and then over to this. This is in the sale now. This is a Dao decorated incense burner. And it appears to be Chunlong Marken period. Now, the only issue with it is it's got some repairs to it. But the color looks very good. The cover obviously is not original. There's a shot of it. But when you come around and you get closer to it, hold on. You can see the repairs are there. Okay, this is an area of repair below the handle down here. It's pretty obvious. It's not hard to see. It's because it's yellowed. It's an old repair. This is a repair probably from the 1920s or before. And this was a common issue with them. It probably matched the white ground perfectly when they started, but over time the pigments faded. The artwork got discolored and aged a bit. So it will need to go out and get a real professional restoration. But this looks authentic from what I can see. This looks, and this one's also been broken here at the bottom. So it looks like both sides had damage to the handles, and the handle looks like it's been restuck here, all around here. So there is a significant issue with the handles, but it's a rare bird and nicely done. Otherwise, if you've wanted to own one of these Dao examples and you haven't had the wherewithal to shell out $80,000 or so to buy one at Christie's, Sotheby's. You might be able to pick this one up and get it restored yourself. The estimate is $15,000 to $25,000. It's got an $8,000 opening bid. It's got 50 people watching it already because it's probably going to do quite well. But and we'll see. Why don't I bookmark it? We'll come back and revisit it when it sells. But it's a nice example, and I think it's probably gonna go to the upper estimate based on some of the things I've been seeing lately. And then there's this. This is also in Butterscotch. There's a couple of very nice Armorial platters if you're an Armorial buyer. And Armorial wares have had some interest lately, so you might want to look at this. This is a nice big platter. It measures 16 inches long. It's a fairly good size one, and the decoration appears to be in very good condition. Again, the gilding is all intact. The enamels, I don't see any chipping. The edges look good. Slight area of wear along the left side and down, but the rim, that's because the rims get touched the most typically. But anyway, it's a nice looking Armorial platter, estimated at $800 to $1,200, $500 starting bid. It'll probably bring probably around 1,000 to 1,500. It'll get there. Armorial wares seem to be of interest to people lately. And then over to this very nice pair of open worked Famille Rose hat stands, probably mid 19th century or so, maybe a little later, but very nicely done. Good enamels on them. And these are lovely table lamps. If you've been looking for a great pair of table lamps, you should buy these. And they've got nice, because one, the colors are very, very good on them, but also they're fitted with proper sort of Chinese taste wood stands. Whoop, hold on. Sorry about that. Quick call. What's really nice about these, they have these beautifully done wooden tops and nice looking bases. They're ready to go. They're wonderful table lamps, and you can de-lamp them if you want, and you can put your hats on them because they're not really very good for putting flowers in because of the holes on the side. And most people don't use them as hat stands anymore, but they do them as decorations. But they're wonderful as table lamps, and these should bring $800 or so, $800 to $1,000. The estimate's very modest, $200 to $400. And this is at Butterscotch coming up on December 7th. And then they have these. Now, these are interesting, and I only included these. These are not particularly old. These are probably from 1900 to 1920, and they didn't say what they're made of, but they're made of soapstone. And you don't see soapstone in much Chinese art with paint on it, unless it's on a screen. We've all seen the screens that have instead of using porcelain, sort of the poor man's porcelain, they use soapstone panels and then painted those and put them in wood screens. And they're very attractive, like folk art. But you don't often see them done with cache pots or jardinieres. And these are nice. These are very, very attractive. They're marked China on the bottom, so we know they were made after 1895. There's the interior of them. There's the China mark and so forth. But notice they did ink work on the bottoms, on the foot rims too. They really they did a sort of prideful job of decorating these. So if you want something interesting, maybe something to put some flowers in or put a couple of plants in for the winter, these would be quite nice. They're very folky. And they're not going to go for a lot of money. They're not going to go for a lot of money. Right now, there are 2 people watching it, and they measure about, what are they, 3 or 4 inches tall and 4 inches wide. So they're like little planters, but they're quite nice. I just think they're charming. So I thought I'd throw those in for the fun of it. All right, and then over to this. This is coming up. This was the table I mentioned at the beginning. This is a Boston Classical mahogany games table by Isaac Vos. And he was a very well-known cabinet maker in Boston during the first half of the 19th century. And he was known for making tables of this shape with these scroll ends on them and these square plinth bases, and then these very sort of masculine feet with reverse scroll foot supports. Very nice looking table. This one does need to be cleaned up. Looks like it came out of an estate. There's a little piece of veneer missing off of it and so forth. But these tables are very, very nice. They're great game tables or card tables, breakfast tables, that sort of thing. Very handsome, very simple, very elegant, but amazing figuring in the mahogany on the tops. That's the one thing that he was known for, was selecting beautiful wood. And the wood grain on this thing is absolutely spectacularly good. And this kind of grain you only see from the oldest mahogany trees, which they eventually depleted in Santo Domingo and Cuba. And when they began harvesting wood in Cuba and these places, they would start on the outside of the forests, and they would sort of take the newer growth trees down first. So they had fairly straight grain woods that they would export to England for furniture making and to America during the 18th century. But as they went deeper and deeper in, they would get into bigger and older and much heavier and thicker trees. And so during the American classical period, after they'd been extracting mahogany trees out of Cuba and Santo Domingo for 50 years, they got into some very old ones. And that's why a lot of American classical furniture, I was told by somebody that was an expert on this stuff, why the American classical stuff had typically had much heavier figuring than the earlier federal pieces, because they were getting into the deeper parts of the jungles where the trees were much older. And you end up with these massive burls in the wood, with these very deep grains. And that's why you see them on Empire and mahogany sideboards from that period and so forth, because that was the wood that was available. And also on the base, and they veneered a lot with it because it was considered to be very precious. So a lot of it was veneering that was done. This looks like a plank top, though. That doesn't look like veneer to me. That looks like a solid board on the top, which is really quite something. And nicely done, and it's not warped, which is almost a miracle. At any rate, the estimate is very modest: $600 to $900, $375. Back in the day when American furniture was hot, I'll just give you an idea. These tables sold for $3,000 to $5,000, $4,000 to $6,000, depending on how they were done. So they are a tremendous bargain, relatively speaking, today. I think this one will probably do fairly well. Probably bring $800 to $1,200, maybe more. I'll mark that. We'll see how it does. We'll come back and check it. All right, and then now over to this. This is Rob Michiels has a sale coming up on the 16th of December, and he's got quite a bit of stuff. It's sort of a small sale, but there's some nice things in there. And I happened to catch this, obviously, because of the first thing we looked at were these cups. Well, Rob's got one of them coming up in this sale. There it is. And now he's estimated his, I think, at 3 to 6,000 euros, which is around $3,500 to $6,800 roughly. So he's giving it a fairly aggressive estimate, but nowhere near the $15,000 estimate of the others. This is virtually identical to the example that sold at the Revere sale. So I'm going to be very curious to see how this does. Very, very curious. There is an interest in these. Right now, there's only 2 people watching it because the sale just posted in the last couple of days, but we'll see how it grows over the next few weeks. All right, and then there's also this in the sale. If you're a Japanese Arita buyer, this is a very nice piece of late 17th century Arita from Japan, beautifully done. They're calling it 17th, 18th century. It's 17th century, quite certain. But anyway, it's 48 centimeters tall, which is about, comes out to about 19 inches. This is a pretty big jar. And the estimate is 800 to 1,200 euros, which isn't bad at all. That's a fairly reasonable thing. You want to get a condition report and make sure it hasn't been glued back together or something. But that's pretty reasonable given what some of these Arita pieces have been doing lately. I wouldn't be surprised if this brought a couple of €1,000 at all, based on what we've seen lately. But it's a nice looking jar, and there's a lot of export wares in the sale too. If you come over and go through it, you're going to see some nice, there's some good Kangxi pieces in here. There's some good Famille Rose, some good export. They have these nice reticulated ewers. And so forth. Always get condition reports with any porcelain, of course, but this is there's some nice pieces in here. And there's a number of good Japanese pieces as well. Also fairly standard 18th century export China trade wares. You have one of these fairly rare Neptune mugs is in the auction. These don't turn up very often. These are sort of rare birds. It's quite an interesting piece of Chinese porcelain. They date to the latter part of the 18th century. And in the past, we've seen them bring $1,400, $1,500, $1,800. This one's got a more modest estimate. That's just, I think, their way of saying we're here to sell it, and so forth. So there's some good looking Famille Rose here. As you can see, all of this is 18th century material from what I'm seeing. Yep, all of it. And then there's some cloisonné, of course. There's some bronzes. So just go through it. There's a lot to look at here. If I have the time, I'll maybe do a quick video on it. I got to get caught up on the price results from the UK though. Now over to the big news of the day. The big event of the day was this sale, the Imperial Connoisseurship Treasures of Chinese Art from a prestigious collection. It's a mouthful. This was a heck of a nice collection though, and it wasn't a big sale. It was what is it? 801 to 814. There are only 15 lots on the sale, but look at the prices. Look at how they did. And I talked about some of these pieces in the week on the weekly video I do over on the for the Patreon we do with the Patreon subscribers each week. Looked at some of these. I mentioned this one specifically yesterday because it visually looks like a fairly small jar, the way it's shaped, and it has its lotus leaf lid on it. It's an extremely fine yawn dragon jar. This pattern is when you look at the assortment of yawn pieces that are out there, this particular pattern with this dragon typically bring the most money. It's considered to be the most elegant, the most energetic, beautifully done, highly sought after. It's got everything going on. But this jar is much bigger than it looks. Here, to me, it reads like an 8 or 9 inch jar. It's not. This was a big jar. It's 36 centimeters tall, so it's about 15 inches tall. It's a big jar with a lid, and it did extremely well. It was estimated at 8 to 16 million Hong Kong dollars, which is $1 to $2 million. Ended up going for 28 million. This includes the buyer's premium. 28 million, which brings it in at around about 3.5 to 4 million, roughly 3.5 to $4 million, somewhere in that range. It was a very, very beautiful example. And there were other pieces in here, of course. There was this, let's see, what was the other big surprise here? Oh, was this Wan Li Marken period vase. Quite lovely, garlic neck, marked at the top, around the top of the mouth. Very lovely jar, very lovely vase, so nice detail and in beautiful condition. In beautiful, beautiful condition. And this probably measures about 14 inches or so, 43 centimeters. Yeah, about 15, a little under 15 inches. And it was estimated at 800 to 1.6 million Hong Kong, or that would be 100 to $200,000 roughly. And it ended up going for over 600,000. So way over its estimate. Now, Sotheby's in the past, they've been fairly careful with their estimates. So especially these days, there is an expectation of it going through. Everything in this sale found a new owner, though. Everything in the sale sold. It was what as they say, a white glove sale. And then there was this. This was exceptional. This Kangxi Lung Yao vase. Absolutely great looking example. And I talked about this in the video yesterday, and I thought it would, I think I mentioned it would probably do quite well. The estimate was 800 to 1.6 million, or 100 to 200,000. Ended up going for about 400. What does that work out to? About $400,000 for this vase, which is a very big price for a piece of Lung Yao, I think. But the color on it was so beautiful. It waved down the piece, nicely pooled at the foot here, where you see it thickening up. Very neatly done. Beautiful even glaze. Nice mouth on it. I like the white lip, how it pulled back a little bit. Had a lot going for it and very defined at the shoulder. Just a lovely looking vase. And it was pretty good size. It was 42 centimeters, or around, that comes out to about 30, no, excuse me, not 30, 14, 15 inches, somewhere around there. But a wonderful example. Really, really nice example. And then you have, let's see what else is in here. Oh, we lost the page. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. All right, now this. The main lot, though, was, or one of the really big pieces in the sale was this very, very rare Qinlong Marken period underglazed blue and underglazed red dragon jar. Very, very rare type, beautifully done, and it did fine. I was really wondering how this would do. I thought it would get there yesterday when we were talking about it, and it did. It did just fine in the end. You always wonder, though. But the details of this thing were so well done. Great shape, beautiful Chanchu Ping form, and it ended up selling for 29 million Hong Kong, or just a little under, well, about 3.6 million, something like that, US. It was estimated at 25 to 35 million Hong Kong. It was a heck of a nice thing, though. So, at any rate, the whole sale found, if you go through and take a look, every piece in the sale sold. And most of them sold well above their estimate. So this was a seller that obviously wanted the stuff to go, and wasn't fooling around with pushing those strong estimates and strong reserves. took probably the Sotheby's gave them good advice, and the sale did just fine. And you look at everything went pretty much above their estimates. Everything in the sale at the high estimate or above it was pretty much across the board for the whole auction. Now, the big question is the sale that's coming up tomorrow, which is going to be fascinating. And we're going to get over to it. This is from the Okada Museum. And those of you that are familiar with the what's going on here, you know what this is all about. And if you don't know what it's all about, I'll go through it. The Okada Museum was founded by what was known as the Pachinko King of Japan. He owned slot machines, and he was heavily involved in the gambling world and things like that. He got into a business deal. He founded the museum for his collection. And he got into a business deal with Steve Wynn back about 20 years ago. And the relationship, because he was selling a lot of slot machines in Vegas and so forth, and he was becoming very, very wealthy from that. And he got into a business deal with Steve Wynn. They worked together. He has this guy has his own entertainment company. They end up going into a partnership. The partnership didn't work out. Wynn wanted to pay him off. They went back and forth. They ended up in litigation and then eventually going to arbitration. And because he was demanding a higher payment, he was asking, it was $2.6 billion to be bought out. He'd put in originally around $300 million into the deal, and he was wanting $2.6 billion to leave it. And Wynn agreed to a lower price. They went to arbitration. He hired a law firm. Long story short, they spent this was an ongoing huge legal battle for a long time because it involves a lot of money. And in the end, he got what he was looking for, the $2.6 billion. By the time it was over, apparently he was angry at everybody, including his own lawyers. And the way the New York Times has an article about it, which I published on Patreon earlier today. If you want to read the story, if you're one of the Patreon folks, you can go over and read the whole New York Times article about it. It's pretty fascinating, sort of a look behind the curtain of what can go wrong. And at the end, he got the money he wanted. He turned $300 million into $2.6 billion. I guess his own family voted him out of his own company. It was a big mess. He created a big mess is what he did, and blaming everybody else. And when it came time to pay his lawyers, he stiffed them. And his lawyers took him to court. And his lawyers won because they owed them $50 million. Now, why he didn't pay them what was owed is beyond me, because they did their job, and he knew darn well from running a big company for a long time that the legal bill was going to be huge. He got what he was asking for, now he stiffed the lawyers. So what the lawyers did, they went after him, and they went after this museum because he owns the museum and he built it, and they are forcing the sale of quite a few great pieces from this collection. It's really sad. 125 items. And I went through the Okada Museum, what they've got online, to see what they've got left. And now, I'm not saying the place is empty, but boy, this really put a crease in that collection. This really damaged the collection. And we're going to go through some of the lots here that are in this sale that are absolutely amazing. Chinese and Japanese. This is both. Both are in this sale, and there's some huge numbers because he has to raise the $50 million net to pay off the lawyers. But you're looking through here and seeing some pretty familiar looking faces. You have this an extraordinarily beautiful Yongle period grapes pattern dish, estimated at 6 to 12 million Hong Kong, or it's 700,000 to $1 million, basically, a little over $1 million. It'll probably get there. I hope it does for their sake. Now, any of the money that's left over after they pay off the $50 million goes back to the museum, hopefully so they can buy more stuff to replace what they've lost. Here you have a very beautiful celadon ground bottle vase seal mark of, I believe this is it's either Yongchen or Qinlong, Yongchen vase, $8 million to $16 million estimate is being sold. And it's sad to see. This is really, really sad to see. Exceptional dragon charger in the middle, again, estimated the estimate ranges are pretty wide, 5 to 12 million Hong Kong. That's a pretty big range. Qinlong, we've seen these before. They do not turn up often. This is one of the great examples in the world, to be very blunt, and the museum is losing it because this guy didn't want to pay his lawyers. I don't understand it. I just don't why he would undo a museum as heavily as this is going to affect them going along. And there are more expensive things in here than those things. You come over here, you've got some great pieces of Kutani. You've got another Younglow grapes platter over here, a moon flask, a big pair of Jiajing Marken period jars. Just shame on this guy for doing it. He got 2.6 billion. Why didn't he just pay them? Why didn't he just pay it? Because he knew it was going to come back. I don't understand it. There's some Japanese screens in here. He's got another Younglow plate in here, estimated 1.5 to 3 million Hong Kong, and so forth. And they're thinking this is going to pull out. This is estimated 7 million to 14 million Hong Kong. They're thinking this is going to bail them out, and maybe hopefully have some money left over so they can rebuild. Because this, as far as their Chinese part goes, really hurt them. There's some extremely rare Japanese screens in here that are upwards of $500,000 to $1 million US and so forth. It's very sad to see, and I was absolutely astounded that he would allow this to happen over such a petty argument. It just I always thought that the guy really loved the art world and really loved the art collection. He's in his 80s. And why he would allow this to happen when he obviously has more money than he will ever spend, and 50 million out of 2.6 billion plus the other 2 or 3 billion he apparently had before the settlement. I don't understand it. It's a mystery to me. It's just very, very sad, and frankly a little bit disgusting. And I hope the pieces do well. They deserve to do well. They're all great examples, but this is just pretty sad to watch. Pretty sad to watch. Sotheby's isn't commenting on the circumstances surrounding the sale too much. Basically, it's a forced liquidation because lawyers don't give up once you owe them money. They just don't. They're going to get paid. And I don't blame them. They did the work. They got to get paid. That's all there is to it. The man is a boob. So that's where we are this week. I hope the stuff does great. I hope it ends up going into some great collections. Maybe some museums will step up and acquire some of this stuff because these are some of the finest examples of their type in the world. So that's all I have to say on it. That's all I have to say on it. I won't go on too long. But anyway, that's what I'm dying to see how they do. I really do hope they do well because they deserve it. They're beautiful pieces. Him, not so much. All right. That's it for the week. If you haven't subscribed yet here on YouTube, please do. And if you want to join us over at Patreon, do that as well. We have all kinds of things being posted there. We try to post things at least 6 or 7 times a week over there. This week I'm a little behind because I was out of town for a couple of days, but we're getting caught up right now. And that's about it. So leave a comment. Give us a thumbs up. It helps us in the algorithm, as they say. And we'll see you next week with more videos. And if you missed next week's video, have a great Thanksgiving with your family or wherever you enjoy the holiday with. Eat a plenty and take a nice nap afterwards. And get caught up with things. Get caught up with your families. All right. See you all next time. Bye-bye.